I took the stairs to get help and ended up at yesterday. That sounds like a joke until you check your phone and the notifications are already red. I wasn't trying to be brave, the elevator just froze at 3:17. I hit the call button, watched the LED die, and heard the long sigh the cars make when the computer gives up. Down the hall, Mr. Cardenas's monitor was beeping that polite, escalating chirp we all pretend isn't a countdown. I told Sophia at the desk I was taking Stairwell B to grab respiratory from the ED. She said, hurry, which you never say, and I said, back in 2, which you also never say. The fire door latch was sticky from too many Clorox wipes, the push bar left a cold stripe across my palms. The stairwell air always smells like dust baked with rain, concrete and gym floor. Someone had mopped half of it and quit, a yellow sign leaned into itself like a drunk. There's a laminated code compliance sheet on the wall nobody reads. Tonight there was an extra, taped crooked over it in 20-point Arial, keep right, no conversation after 3:15, do not open 2 street level without an escort. I laughed in my throat and kept right like it could matter. I counted landings because I always do, not out of superstition but because getting lost in a hospital staircase is a stupid way to ruin a life. For down to lobby should be easy, 3 east, 2, 1, then security. The echo of my shoes was half a second behind me, out of sync like a bad Zoom call. I hit the first landing and glanced through the wired glass toward 3 east. Lights looked normal, that green dawn of fluorescence when half the tubes are dying. I took another flight. The second landing window showed 2, a housekeeping cart was parked with the blue bag yawning open, and the radio clipped to the handle was playing ranchera under the static. I knocked once, for luck I don't believe in, and kept going. The third landing should have been 1, the stencil on the cinder block said L1, but the window showed sun pouring down the main corridor and a bulletin board with a flyer I helped hang yesterday morning. My name was on the sign-up sheet in my own handwriting, still crooked where I pressed too hard. Tuesday at 3:20 is black glass and sleeping vents, the window showed Monday at 9:40 with someone laughing by the water cooler. I pulled my badge and tried the door. It beeped red like it always does if you don't have access from the stairwell. My phone said 3:19 Tuesday. On the lock strip, somebody had scratched tiny letters into the paint with a key, don't chase them. I did not like that the pronoun was plural. Behind me, a shoe step answered my step, late by a breath. I said, hey, who's there, and nothing came back but the long ventilation sigh and a dry click like a cricket inside metal. I kept right. At the next turn the handrail was colder, damp like someone's palm just left it. 3 steps down a draft ran up my sleeves like breath from a mouth at my cuff. I told myself it was the stack effect, all the hot air rising, like we learned in orientation, and if I kept talking to myself it would stay physics. I said my own name out loud, to hear a voice. It echoed wrong, as if a second version of me, a half step under, was trying to say it at the same time but had to listen first. I hit lobby 1 flight early. The stencil on the wall read G, and the crash bar door had a brass plate from some other decade, rounded edges polished by 1,000 hands that don't come at night. I shoved it with my hip and blinked into the lobby. Daylight pooled like a spill. We keep the lights low overnight to keep the fishbowl feel down, this was bright enough to see fingerprints in the glass. The visitor desk had that messy morning confidence, coffee ring under a folded Tribune, security log open to a page that hadn't been there at 3. The analog wall clock above admitting said 9:42. Monday. I checked my phone again, expecting the same stubborn digital certitude, but the date had rolled back a day and the banner from my bank about a deposit arriving tomorrow had vanished. A volunteer in a red vest walked past the glass with a box of pre-wrapped sandwiches I knew would be gone by evening. She waved at the empty security desk, then at me, but the wave slid right off the window like light. She did not see me. I tried my badge on the inside reader. It bleeped 3 polite ticks, not red, not green, like a shrug. On the reception counter sat a cardboard sign somebody had scrawled and propped with tape. It said, "You are safe here," which would be comforting if anyone wrote it like they believed it. I backed into the stairwell because I still had a patient upstairs, and the stairwell gave me rules, and the rules let my head stop sliding. Keep right, no conversation after 3:15, do not open to street level without an escort. I did not know why the time mattered. Above my head, someone went up one flight the wrong way, slow and thoughtful, like they were remembering the shape of each step. They paused at my landing. I could feel it in the rail, a question in the metal. I said, I'm going to security and coming back, please keep breathing, and I meant Mr. Cardenas, and maybe myself. I took one step and the hum downshifted, half a tone lower, like when the generator grabs the load and the lights lag behind. Then I put my foot back on the tread. Everything leaned a degree to the left, like the building had taken a breath. The light through the wired glass stuttered once, frames missing from a movie. I don't know why I said sorry, but I did, to no one I could see. Mr. Cardenas was upstairs learning that time is a kind of pressure, and I was a floor and a day away with a rule that said keep right and a door that admitted Monday. I went up. The echo of my steps arrived late and left early, like two different shifts handing off without talking. The compliance sheet behind its cloudy plastic had a new line in the corner that hadn't been there coming down. The font didn't match. It was handwriting, blocky and impatient, if you pass lobby in daylight, do not wave. I looked at the ink and knew exactly how the pen felt in the hand that wrote it because it was my hand. There was a hair from my sleeve stuck under the tape, a pale thread I kept meaning to cut. I wanted to peel it up just to prove I could change one small thing. I didn't. Landing window, L1 again. Through the glass, the corridor was empty and gray the way it is before first shift clocks in, with the coffee smell trying to be brave. A balloon from someone's discharge party bumped a corner and turned in place as if following me with the printed smile. I tried the handle and it did its shrug. The badge reader blinked. 3 small, polite ticks. The stairwell hummed low. Something above me matched my breath a fraction behind, practicing. Security, can you copy? I said into the radio clip to my scrub top before I remembered we don't carry radios. I had my phone. I called the main desk. The line rang, the wrong ring, the day ring, the one that makes volunteers pop up like toast. Admitting, a woman said, and it was Virginia, and it was Monday Virginia with her cheerful voice, and I heard myself say, I need escort to street level, and she said, like the sign, do not open to street level without an escort, and then, very softly, who is this? I hung up because it sounded like she could hear me and not see me, and that is worse. I went up again. The metal steps hit back through my shoes. My calves got the good ache you get when the code card is too far and you run anyway. I told myself the rules out loud, keep right, no conversation after 3:15, do not open to street level without an escort, like 3 beads to count with my tongue. A gum wrapper stuck to the tread, folded with someone's thumbnail, the same brand I buy when I'm trying to quit coffee. My name felt warm in my mouth and I didn't say it. The landing for 2 showed exactly what I'd left, the housekeeping cart, the blue bag, the ranchera radio. But the song was a measure behind, repeating 1 bar in the wrong key, like it had forgotten the next chord and decided to do the last one again. Someone laughed in the echo and I heard my laugh and it made my spine cold. Through the wire, a shape went past that had my height and my gait and my left knee hesitation from last winter when I thought I'd torn something on the ice. I almost knocked. I put my fingers on the glass and took them back when the echo put its fingers there, too, a half second later, from inside. Up. 3 East Landing. The window showed the nurse's station with the cheap fake wood and the laminated color-coded sheets and Sophia at the computer, hair up, mouth set in the line she gets when she's on hold forever. My patient board was still wrong from report. My own handwriting from an hour ago, except it was yesterday's hour ago. I tried the door and the alarm light smiled but the lock didn't care. I whispered, I'm here, and the stairwell took it and gave it back delayed and tired, a promise that someone might be here later. Mr. Cardenas's monitor beeped a rhythm I knew too well and hated and it did not speed or slow. It would do what it would do and my stairs would do what they did. I turned to go to the ED by going down to G, and trying a different stairwell like that would matter. The sign over the handle had peeled at one corner, and beneath the peel I saw other layers, other warnings, old tape fossils. I pressed the corner flat and the layers made a soft whisper, like paper practicing a word. Under the compliance sheet, where somebody had scratched "Don't chase them," there was another scratch I hadn't noticed. Small steps. I took small steps. It felt stupid and careful. The echo stopped lagging. It came up even with me, then pulled a hair ahead, as if the thing behind me had to match my cadence exactly or miss a stair. I kept right. On the next down flight the air was colder and wetter, street breath. The door at the bottom had the brass plate and the lobby glass beyond was daylight bright again. The volunteer with the sandwiches crossed, and this time she did not wave. She set the box down to retie her vest string and looked at where my shadow would have been if the light had understood me. I put my palm on the push bar. "Escort," I said, stupidly, to the empty lobby. The stairwell answered with its hum. The brass was warmer than it should have been, like a person had just leaned there and asked me not to. I looked up the well. The figure a floor above had stopped. It was me. The me who kept right and didn't talk and took small steps. My stomach did the thing it does when the bed moves in a dream. I understood the rule wrong. The escort isn't security. It's you. The version of you who has already done this, or not yet. If you open the door to the street alone, maybe you aren't alone anymore. Maybe you are less. I did not open to street level. I went back to L1. The window now showed the night it should have been, gray hall, automatic lights, nobody. I tried the handle and it still didn't take my badge. I thought of Mr. Cardenas, of the beat marching, of oxygen tubing kinked because the house brand is too stiff in winter. I pressed my forehead to the wire glass and felt the cool grid mark my skin in diamonds. My phone vibrated. A text from Sophia, "RT coming. You good?" The timestamp said Monday 9:46 a.m. I typed, "Stuck in B stair," and the bubble sat blue and unsent because there was no service where I was, and yet her message had arrived fine, because that's how unfair things are. I deleted it. I typed, "Keep him warm," and deleted that, too, because I didn't know which him I meant. The stairwell went quieter than quiet. The hum didn't stop, it stepped aside. I heard someone behind the door on L1 take a breath the way you take a breath when you put a key in your own house and feel the shape of the lock. The knob didn't move. The breath waited. I put my hand flat against the glass where my hand had been from the other side earlier and it fit. I said, "Soft, don't chase them." It fogged a little circle. The circle on the other side bloomed a heartbeat later. Footsteps below, measured, small. Another me learning small steps or teaching them. I kept right and went up, counting not floors but breaths. At 3 east the window showed night. Sophia glanced at the clock and then at the elevator that had sighed for me. I knocked once. She didn't lift her head. The alarm tone in 312 flattened a half pitch, that moment it gives up and becomes one long thought. I put my badge to the reader and it went green. That is the part one can't argue with. The light went green. The latch clicked. I pushed through and the hinge moved like it always moves, complaining, and the air was the right temperature and it smelled like saline and lemon and the specific clean of chlorhexidine and old carpet. I turned the corner and Mr. Cardenas's room was open and empty. The bed was made wrong, flat and tight the way housekeeping makes it for a room that will be assigned later. His name was erased from the whiteboard. Mine wasn't. My scrawl still told me to remind him to call his daughter in the morning. The morning had not, apparently, been this one. Down the hall, my own laugh happened in the break room a beat late, where I had not been. A napkin I'd folded had the same crease. The TV on mute scrolled closed captions from last night's news, but the footage was from a daytime crash that hadn't happened yet. I stood there with the stairwell door closed behind me and felt sure and stupid at the same time. I went back to the stairwell because nothing else felt like a thing I was allowed to do. The compliance sheet looked fine, bureaucratic, untouched, except for a new line at the very bottom in my blocky hand, damp ink blurring. No conversation after 3:15 was now underlined twice. Under that, someone had added, in a smaller hand that could have been mine when I was more careful, if you see yourself, keep right. If you hear yourself, let them go first. I did. I stood there for a long time, or a short time measured badly, and listened to myself on another flight make the decision to turn around. I didn't say hurry. I didn't say back in two. I let the echo go. When the hum found its honest note again, I started up, slow and careful, and the air behind me stayed empty like a hallway at 4 in the morning. I don't know if I ended up at today. My phone thinks it's Tuesday. The cafeteria smells like Monday meatloaf. Sophia's message is unread on a day that has already passed, and I am writing this in the Notes app with my back to the stair door, and the brass plate is warm like a hand, and something on the other side is being very polite. It knocks under the hum, not loud, not urgent, 3, pause, 1, 3. The kind of pattern you only notice if you've heard it before. I am keeping right. I am not talking. If the door opens, I will let me go first.